That's interesting.
I don't know why.
Happy hump day.
Yeah. Today we got Colin, Bobby, Dan. Brad's actually out today.
You remembered everyone's names.
I did.
And you.
Happy birthday to Brad's daughter, by the way.
Happy birthday, Brad's daughter.
Happy birthday, Brad's daughter.
Yep. So today we're going to be talking
Happy PD.
about failure.
I hate that shit. I'm just gonna be real. I fucking hate this fucking sounds.
That just
I don't know.
that just made
So
it. That
fucking
just made
corny.
it-
It's almost as corny as our intro
That just.
that
I
Matt
think the
did.
entire 45 minutes could just be him playing around with the soundboard.
Yeah, I'm in for that.
Good idea.
Jesus.
So that was.
How much can we piss off Dan?
Don't get me started. All right. So, Matt, what do we got today?
Today we're going to talk about failure. We're going to talk about it in all aspects of life. We're going to talk about it in the personal, the professional. We're going to probably give some examples of our failures. And before we do that, I think we're going to kick it off with any topics around the professional development world, the podcast world. And I'll start it off today. I had an interesting one. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Joe Rogan, biggest podcaster on the face of the earth, and everybody's talking about it, so I'm sure you have. But
Fear Factor.
He moved over. Yes, yeah,
That was where he got to start.
that is.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Before he started doing MMA, yeah, he was.
Yeah,
on
but that
Fear
dude could
Factor.
kick a fucking like punching bag off a
There's
wall.
There's clips of him fighting with the contestants on Fear Factor.
It's awesome.
Really?
Yeah, husband and wife were like getting into it, and the wife went over and punched one of the other contestants, and then Joe was like, "You can't fucking do that," and her husband was like, "What are you gonna do about Rogan?" And then he threw him in a headlock.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
He should have
It's pretty
roundhoused him.
badass, Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Tangents.
he switched his platform completely over to Spotify.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah,
got motherfucking paid on that. Like
Of
there's like
course.
numbers thrown around like 100 million. Some are saying like 100 million per year. So good for him for getting paid. He's got a great
It's like an
episode.
NBA
Like I enjoy his content. Sometimes it's just too long and I don't have 3
Same.
hours to put into it. But every one I end up listening to, it's entertaining. It's like a good combination of self-development and entertainment and comedy, right? Well, he made the announcement that they were going to Spotify, and in it he said like you can, the entire Joe Rogan library is going to go straight to Spotify. You can view all the episodes or listen to all the episodes there, and then he switches and there's a bunch of episodes missing. And so a lot of them are like some like real nut jobs, like what's his name, Aaron, what's his name, the Jones guy, the fucking, anybody know what I'm
The
talking
Jones guy.
It's Aaron. Is it Aaron Jones?
about? Is that his
Aaron
name?
Jones.
So
I don't know.
Starts with a
Jones,
J.
Aaron.
Swammy?
He's throwing out a lot
Swanson?
of fucking names here.
no, hold on. Aaron Jones is a football player. Where
Aaron
is it?
Judge is a baseball player.
Saints
Hold on.
night.
Aaron Carter.
God damn it. Okay.
I want
This is.
candy.
I'm glad we're not doing Facebook Live on
Aaron
this.
Carter.
All right. So
Aaron
we
Carter.
get what you're saying, though. We get
Yeah.
what you're
So, but a lot of it, what they're looking at and what they're seeing, political views aside, right? But what the big thing that they're calling out are just a lot of right wing people, like some on the very very far right, like I said, some absolute nut jobs, and like this guy who I can't remember his name, like is very much like a tinfoil hat, like thinks I don't know, like lizards like are going to invade the earth, and I don't know, just a bunch of crazy
Right,
shit.
right.
But majority of it is people on the right wing, and people are calling it like right wing censorship and like all this other stuff because regardless, so it's just an interesting note to bring up, because if it was Spotify that did it, Joe Rogan's going to be fucking pissed, because Joe Rogan's always been the guy that is like, you bring your ideas from any side of the table and you're going to have a platform to talk on. And then if it was Joe Rogan, that's going to be super interesting because, I mean, like I said, pay the man his money, get paid. Like, I really don't give a shit, but that's always been his voice. That's always been his,
Right.
like, I'm going to be that person where anybody can come talk, and I might argue with you, and I might call you a fucking idiot, but I'm going to let you talk about it on my podcast. So, interesting to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, no, controversial episodes were pulled, is what I saw on it, which
Yeah.
is pretty fucked up.
Yeah, so that's what I got. What do you guys got?
I honestly don't have shit. I'll just jump in real quick before you guys get started. We've been buying a house. My foot's been fucked. So
failure.
Yeah, this week.
There's got another soundboard
This
clip
week.
or
No, we're not. Come on. Thank you. God. Fucking bitch. So, all right.
Congrats
That's what I
on the
got
house.
this week. Yeah, thanks. It'll
That's
be good.
pretty exciting.
We need
That's
more
not
room.
a failure.
It's a sick house. It's pretty sick.
Are you also
It's
a
my
real
middle of
estate
the
agent?
pack
Did you
house.
sell him the house too?
I did.
Alex Jones. Alex Jones.
From InfoWars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He got his
You know-
platform got completely pulled off himself.
I was
I
killing
have-
that.
He can't have a Twitter. He can't have a Facebook. He can't have any kind of social
So
media.
Owen Schroyer, one of the guys that's on that show,
Deplatformed.
if you know who that is, he's
Who-
also
what's his name?
Owen Schroyer. I went to high school with him, and he was one of my best buddies growing up through high school. And he is on that show. And if you ever saw the clip of the guy that interrupted Jerry Nadler whenever he was giving that speech, I don't know much about the government, but he was coming in saying that Jerry Nadler's a liar and Trump is innocent and all this other stuff. And he is so far right wing, and he'd be a hilarious person to have on this show. You would absolutely enjoy it because he would just tear it up.
Anybody like that.
Yeah.
I'd say. And then Michaela Peterson. You know Jordan Peterson?
Oh, his daughter.
Like his daughter. So I don't know too much about her.
I got
but I
Jordan
know
written
like
down.
I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson. I listen to a lot of his stuff. I think he's very logical, sensical. Like his book, I read some of the clip notes on that, and that's a good one too. But anywho, I kind of jumped back to my thing. Alex
No,
Jones.
you're good.
Anything else, Matt? You want to?
Alex
Anything
Jones,
else you can
Alex
think
Jones
of?
is like a
Failure.
conspiracy theorist to the max.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So he is hardcore against any kind of government. He would have a lot to say about what's going on in this pandemic.
I'll see if I can get Owen on here, and he would just have a.
We'll just let him
heyday,
talk.
Pretty much, and we would just listen and
I'll blow our
laugh.
minds with conspiracy theories. Please.
Yeah, he would, and it'd be hilarious.
We could
And
dissect them.
He'd probably just make us think like those flat Earth documentaries. Be like, oh my god, but is that real? It's like, but there's no way that can be real.
They have very hard theories on why the government is trying to push a totalitarian. Am I saying that right? Totalitarian regime on our people. So I
Interesting.
think that's why they deplatformed him, because I think he was opening a lot of eyes, and he was having a lot of people.
Well,
who
it
were
can be
following him who were
dangerous.
who were talking pretty crazy. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
were you talking when Matt just dove back in?
No, I don't. Well, I was talking just about because you mentioned Alex Jones, and that's when I talked about my buddy. So, I mean, I don't have anything really huge in the self development world. Like I said last week too, I've just been focusing on what's in front of me. I haven't been listening to a lot of podcasts, to be completely honest. It's something that I want to jump back into. I have some podcasts that I listen to that were related to our topic this week, but I'll save those once we dive in. So, Colin, do you have anything that?
Actually, yeah. So I have Jordan Peterson down here. So
Wow.
I
Universe.
yeah. I actually want to talk about morning routines again. So no, but Jordan Peterson. So I have not read his book. What's his book called? 12 Rules. Or something?
It's like the 12 rules to success, something along.
12 rules for life or something like that. I'm
Bobby
very,
will get it.
I'm very interested in reading that book. That'll probably be the next one that I buy. But I just listened to
12 Rules for Life.
12 Rules for Life. Yeah. So
Can I dive in real quick just to have a quick open discussion about this? Isn't it weird? There's all these
I
fucking
didn't say
books.
you could chime in.
Hold on.
You asked, and I didn't.
And then I
respond.
just kept going.
Yeah.
I was trying to be nice.
Permission granted by
So
myself.
So, but there's so many books. So 7 habits. There's 12 rules. There's fucking 6
Something
things
of
here.
effective
20 things there.
leaders,
Like
the
all
one
these.
thing,
So what are
99
there?
They say-
problems.
How many are
They
there?
virtually say the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Just in different
Is that
manners.
really all you?
That's what I was
interrupt the
thinking.
count for?
Yeah, I was
That's it.
thinking there's
Fucking
so many
pray.
different books and things where it says hey, 12 habits to live by. Or,
I like how many failures
Whatever.
there's already been on this episode when we're talking about failure.
This
today.
is a perfect example.
Yeah.
myself included.
this is a crash
You're
course.
doing a great
failure.
job.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron
I've
Jones,
done too
that
many-
son of a bitch.
I've done too many fantasy football drafts in the past week.
So
Are you doing
what do
those?
you
What's
make
that
of
on-
that? What
what's
do you
that?
make of that?
I just think
I
it's
wanna do
interesting
fantasy
that
football.
people take information and then they come up with
Sum
with
it
the
up in their
different
own
rules.
way.
So
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm
It's
sorry.
people who have found success, and I think I think they've probably followed. They were probably pretty disciplined in their process, and if you ask them what made them successful, they can break it down into whatever number of things they think is important.
So and I think I mentioned this when we first started the book club, like when we were still at WeWork doing our meetings or whatever. And so you read through all these books and everything, and you get all this information, and things resonate with me. And I think that's a personal thing. Like different things might resonate with Matt or with you or with Bobby or with Brad. Yeah, not Brandon, right? Last week. Anyways, so I guess what I'm saying is you kind of build your own commandments list, right? Like the 10 commandments that you personally live by. And so for that guy, I guess it's 12. For 7 Habits guy, I guess it's 7.
You got to think all these guys are all reading the same books too. It's not like anyone's reinventing the wheel. It's just figuring out what works for them, and then they put it out there in a way that might make sense for another person, whether it's financially, leadership, sobriety, etc., etc. There's always going to be someone who's going to put out another book about.
Yeah, and I think that it's people learn differently, right? So like you can explain the same topic 8 different ways, but a person might only learn from one of those ways, and a different person might learn from a different one of those ways. So it's good to have all the stuff out there. I just think it's interesting. There's so many, like 12, 7, 6, whatever ways to live. Yeah. Sorry, Matt.
He'll forgive you, I think.
What are you sorry for?
Should he be apologizing to the man you interrupted?
I jumped in because Matt keeps giving me this fucking weird look today.
No.
You were out of line.
I look good.
Did you not come with enough
You do
today?
look good, actually, today.
Dan's been on the whole OptiGreen train from
So is he just out of it completely? So is that what that is? I thought you were dipping.
I'm way out.
No, and so before Dan,
I'll be back.
We've got the podcast on Wednesdays. Dan has his golf league on Thursdays, and Dan doesn't ask me for greens because I keep him in the office. He doesn't ask me for greens.
Why doesn't he just go buy his own?
At all?
I did.
Ever? He's got them at home, but. The funny thing is like he'll use them like they're some type of pre-workout or some magic pill, and he'll be like getting ready for golf. He'll be like, "Hey man, we get a couple scoops of green."
They make me feel good. Yeah. I read the ingredients list. First Form OptiGreens. What are they? The berry one. Anyways, it's crazy. There's like alfalfa grass. There's like every breed of grass. I'll bring it next week.
What do those
read
do
it
for
off.
You? That gives you energy.
I don't know. You just feel a little bit better.
So Dan, this is what you would feel like.
Like a heightened mental.
So this is what you would feel like if you would eat vegetables.
Yeah.
That's true. So I eat 0 vegetables unless it's in Mexican food.
So do you get your daily is the idea to get your
smothered
daily
in
serving?
queso.
You get your daily serving in what? How many scoops?
You get more than a daily serving. You get like a lifetime supply.
In one scoop?
Yeah.
There's like probiotics. There's a bunch of superfoods, a bunch of like actual like condensed whatever the word is, vegetables in it. So you get what, like 3
they
or
just
4
extract
servings.
all the like good shit out of it. That's good for you, I guess. So
yeah.
All right. Sorry, Colin. Jordan Peterson, what's up?
It's all good. I listened to Jordan Peterson, and basically what he says is, like, don't chase happiness. Happiness is a feeling that will happen on your way to success. So don't chase it. It'll just happen. You have, at some point in your life to reach anything or get over a hurdle, you kind of have to be a monster, and you kind of have to create that, like, an evil side to get through things. I don't know. I just like his stance on it. So
I like that.
He's very articulate. I really like listening to him.
He is. He's definitely a good listen. He's a guy that puts all the facts on the table. But I do like that. I like that idea of, it's the process, it's the journey to get there. In the book Executive Toughness, which is a great one by Dr. Jason Selk, he was a mental toughness coach for the St. Louis Cardinals the year that they won the World Series. He says it's like there's like product goals and there's process goals, right? So it's like the idea is you want to set a big goal that's up here, but you're not in control of this goal. What you're in control of is the process. So what the process is, like, if it's sales, it's number of calls, right? If it's if we're talking about Brad, it's how much can my machine fabricate on a daily basis, right, to produce X amount of dollars. But it's like the idea of the process goals is to enjoy those process goals.
Yeah.
Because when you don't enjoy the day-to-day of what you're doing, that's when you get burnt out. That's when you're not able to work a lot of hours. That's when you just don't experience fulfillment in general in life. So that's my take.
Love it.
Cool beans.
What were you just
Cool.
I wasn't like. No.
You were.
I was
we made
listening
eye
to Matt.
contact.
Did Dan not
We either
take
had
his
a moment-
OptiGreens?
No, well, they haven't kicked in
He
yet.
fucking spilled half of them on his shirt. Look at his. Look at his
No,
shirt.
we're not gonna look at it because we're on camera.
You got a little stain there.
Oh my gosh, that's
I was
a lot.
mixing.
That's
I
a
was doing
big
the,
stain.
I was doing the mix.
Dan was fucking whipping it up. Yeah.
It's like
They're not scrambled
Max
eggs.
Opti greens. I was so excited.
I told him to get a
Splurged
shaker.
all over my shirt.
Yeah. Why don't
Yeah.
you get a shaker?
You think you'd be
Was a
used to
shaker
that
too much to
motion?
stretch for?
I
or
can't
what?
afford a shaker.
Yeah.
You just send a picture to us of a very large check. Liar.
Fabricated.
Humble brag.
Fabricated.
Yeah.
Keeping up with Brad.
So let's dive into failure. So we've got a lot of different ways that we can go about this. You know, I'm not going to give the definition of failure. Everybody knows that. We all know, like, failure is and does lead to good things in our world. So we're not going to necessarily, I don't have to explain that, but I do want to get into why. So give me each of your kind of takes on why failure is important.
I'll start. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, as a kid, like I was listening to a podcast on the way here. It was Andy Frisella. Sorry, Dan.
$5.
$5
in the jar.
Yeah,
fine.
we need a jar for sure.
That's fine. I'll just use part of the 100 that you still owe us from failing 75 hard the first time.
I'll get that back next week.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll see on the first hole. So, I mean, as far as failure goes, I think it's something that we're all scared of. Like, originally, like, well, here's the thing: is as kids, one of the things that you're never scared to do is like just try and learn how to ride that bike, or you learn how to walk. There's no like fear of failure being a kid. Like once you get older, you have a fear almost of like some like failing in a social setting, right? And I think you see a lot of people that are failing in social settings now, and like I'll put failing in air quotes because someone doesn't have enough followers on Instagram, or they're not as big an influencer as they want to be, whatever that looks like. Obviously, that's nothing that, I mean, any of us here are failing on by any means. But for me,
I only have 160.
you got one more with me. But for me, failure, I don't know. I guess I fail every single day in my business. Something bad happens every single day, and the only thing that we can, or not, I shouldn't say every single day, but we try to learn from those mistakes as best we can. I mean, it's part of the process. If you don't fail, you're not going to get better. It's part of the equation to success. So,
Yeah.
without diving into too much detail, like you have to fail in order to succeed.
Absolutely.
Right.
I like how you bring up the fact that, like, when you're a kid, I forgot which book I was reading a while ago, but it talked about how when you're a kid or you're a baby and you're learning to walk, it's like, how many times does it fucking take you to learn how to walk? Is there ever a time when a baby's just like, you know what, I just don't think this walking thing's for me? Like, they just, and it sounds corny almost, but it's
not
like
in their brain.
No,
They
it's
don't
just
have
like
that.
it's just like you at some point in life you learn that like failing is bad, and it's because we're social beings, right? If you look like biologically back in the, I don't know, like way back in the day, real fear was like, fuck, like a saber-toothed tiger is coming after me, like I have to run, like I have to
Fucking
go,
saber-toothed
like that's
tigers,
it's
man.
the fight or flight mentality, right? Nowadays, we don't have that actual fear of like, you know, predators coming after us. So our fear is social acceptance, right? So then when you get into school and you start developing social awareness, you start to get this idea of like failure is bad. Like I don't want to look bad in front of other people. But we also have this idea of not only fearing to fail. I guess, yeah, it is fearing to fail, but we have to get things right on the first time, right? So if I went out and golfed with you two and I never golfed in my life before, would you expect me to shoot even? No. But if I was out golfing with you two for the first time and I saw how well you two were shooting, I would expect myself to shoot even. Like that's just an expectation we have on ourselves. And a lot of times our perception is just unrealistic of ourselves, and you know, and that's where kind of fear of failure comes in for me, at least.
So like comparing, right? Like seeing what somebody else is doing and then you try it, it doesn't work. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And you see, like, so, and to your point, Matt, you see, like, you see a successful business person, and you, like, immediately you want to think, like, oh, like, man, they really got it good. Like, they lucked into that situation, and they don't see all the failures behind what went into that person's success, between personal failures and professional failures. I think it's something to, I mean, that's where we can even talk about mentors a little bit. Those people that are really successful businessmen and businesswomen are really good to look at as mentors, because they've been through all the shit. They've messed up all the different times, personally, professionally, in order to get where they're at right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I heard an interesting concept of like how the school system teaches this. So like as soon as you get into school, it's either you're right or you're wrong. It's you're passing or you're failing. So it's this idea of like there's no like, hey, like, okay, great try, let's go again, or great try, let's, you know what I mean, instead of like, because that's how it is in the real world, like, or if you want to practice golf or the guitar or whatever it might be. So it's like you go into this system where if you fail a test, you're getting shit from your teacher. If you fail a class, you're getting fucking shit from your parents. If a teacher asks you a question in the middle of class and you get that wrong, you're getting shit from your peers. And you're like, oh shit, like that's embarrassing. Like I'm not going to put my hand up next time, or whatever it might be. And I think there's a little bit of truth to that, because if you think about it, you go to school for at least 12 years, kindergarten through high school or whatever it might be. So you learn that for 12 years of like, okay, can't fail, can't fail, can't fail.
That's my problem with formal education, or the education system as it is today, because it is a requirement to be successful. Like failing is a requirement to be successful, is I guess how I should put it. But you're graded on passing like the first time around on a test, right? Like you get an A for doing a good job. Like you're not really learning through failure in that case, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I have a problem with that, because like Matt had said, like as soon as you feel stupid in front of other people, you're not going to ask the questions that you need to get the answers to be successful, right? Like from a social perspective.
But then at the same time, so Dan, like so it's kind of different in a school setting, and then you think in the sports setting for these kids who are all getting participation trophies, even though one team did better than the other one. It's to me, it's backwards, because you should be encouraging people to go out and win. And like we want people to do well, right? We don't want everyone to fail, but we want you to fail, and then we want you to get better. There's no point in playing, in my opinion, playing a sport not to win. It just seems like the stupidest thing ever.
You and I are in like 100% in agreement to that. I just think I
don't think you should do anything, whether it's a sport.
You said when we were golfing, so that win-win culture, you know, that we have going on, it takes off the table is deliberate practice. So like you can show up to practice and you can put in the time, because what the fuck does it matter anyway? You're gonna get a trophy at the end of the day. But the deliberate practice, Dan said something when we golf. I was like, how the fuck do you chip like that? You know, he's like, well, shit. I mean, it's deliberate practice. If you want to learn anything, you can sit down and learn it, and it's all repetitions. And so, like, when you create a win-win culture, you know, like that, why would I want to go out in the backyard and chip balls? You know what I mean? Like when I can just sit inside and watch TV and get
if I'm going to get the same
when you can just be the fourth person on the scramble team and collect the trophy at the end of the day, and everybody else does all the work.
Absolutely.
Like that tournament.
You know, yeah, hey, absolutely.
I'm just kidding.
And we almost won.
We did. We got second.
You almost won.
But and to that, like, so I have a funny story about like learning through failure with chipping. So I played golf for like a year, and then I walked on a college golf team, and I was playing with people who were a lot better than me, because they played all through high school and they played in state and all this stuff. So this one kid, Kyler, great dude. I was in his wedding, all that stuff. He was amazing. Yeah. Well, in case he listens, just want to give him a shout out. Anyways, so he was really good. He was our number one. He went and did some mini tour stuff after he graduated, but he could like throw the ball and check it, and then he could hit the high flops, and he could do all these things. Well, I wanted to learn how to throw the ball low and check. And for people that don't play golf, you probably don't know what that means. But so we were at practice one day, and it was at this public facility, and nobody was around, and I was going to learn how to do this. So I was hitting these chips, and I kept hitting them thin, because you got to hit them a certain way. And I hit one, and it flew off my club, and it smoked this lady's van, and she was like sitting there reading a book, left a dent in the van. So that was my failure story. Like when you say like, damn, how do you chip like that? It's like, well, you fucking hit people's vans, but then you hit another shot right after that.
Keep going
and act like it didn't happen. Look around like,
but how? Like it's how bad do you want to be good at that too? You know what I mean? Like
but you have to be willing to fail. Like, and I've ran into like when I was getting better at golf, and I don't want to talk about me playing golf the whole time, but
Dan's so good at golf.
No, I'm really not, because Bobby waxed me last time we played. But
get used to it, bitch.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyways, so sometimes I would go to the range and somebody would be next to me and I'd want to just hit a high draw or whatever, so they were like, damn.
You see that?
I can't help what my thoughts are, right? But at the same time, like, that was against what I was trying to practice. Like, I didn't want to hit a shot in a certain way, knowing that I would fail and knowing that I might top it or whatever to achieve my goal, because there were people around and I just wanted to look good like every shot. Yeah. Where if I was by myself, I'm cool with like hitting shots the top or that go whatever way, just because I'm trying to get a certain swing path or whatever. So it's interesting when you're in a social setting how I wasn't willing to let myself fail to get better, but when I'm by myself, I was okay with it. Yeah. Interesting.
So that kind of brings up an interesting concept, and it's the idea of embarrassment and shame. The embarrassment and shame of failing, having that be a motivator to come back and do better. Like, I know that there's been plenty of times where, I'll go out and I'll do something and I'll fail at it and I'll look like an idiot, or at least feel like I'll look like an idiot. And that'll motivate me to say, okay, next time I come back here, I'm going to know what the fuck I'm doing, or at least have like some idea of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I actually have written down you have to be willing to look stupid in order to find some success, whether it's chipping a ball into a lady's van, or if we talk about volleyball or something like that, if we have like you have a shitty match or something like that, you're shanking the ball every single time. Or if it's with work and you make 100 calls and you're not able to set an appointment, and everyone else is setting an appointment every 15 calls, you just have to be willing to look stupid and trust that you're doing all the right things to get better.
Yeah.
Or ask
you're sticking
yourself,
to the
what
process.
can I do to get better? What can I change? But striving to try to get better, I think is key. That's what I was going to bring up. So you dealing with business to business stuff, insurance stuff, you probably get this. So like my mentor, I would have brought this up last week. So my mentor is my boss, right? So I like the way he goes about his business. I like the way he handles himself in certain situations. And I found myself so I just started cold calling when I got over to this company, and like the first few times I was like pissing my pants. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, fuck, please don't answer. Like, let me leave a message. And even when I would leave a message, I'd be stuttering. And like, I just wanted to get to the point so bad where I could have a clear and concise conversation with these people that I wanted to be doing business with, that like somebody had told me, like, you have to keep putting yourself in that position. You have to keep opening that door. How are you going to get good at that if you're never having that conversation? If you're just waiting for those opportunities to land in your lap, it's never going to happen. You have to keep picking up the phone. You have to keep trying to meet people. You have to keep networking, and you have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. Yep. I mean, that's just the name of the game.
And that's how I feel about public speaking. Like, I'm scared shitless of public speaking. Matt knows this. From our time at Toastmasters.
My name is Dan.
That just blows my mind too, because you seem like a guy that would honestly
really
knock it out of the park, man. So props to you for.
Matt's like, dude, you're going. I
said it was like the first time I've ever actually seen him like off kilt. Like, it was weird to see.
It was funny because.
Did you feel sad for him?
And we just talked about this today, so Matt's hearing the same story twice, but. I had this strategy. So Toastmasters is a public speaking program. If anybody wants to get better, I do recommend it. Matt's done a couple of different chapters, and you got to find one that works for you. But Matt brought me to one. And so at the very end, they'll go around, what's it called, table talk or something?
Table topics. So
table topics.
It's basically spur of the moment speaking. So they'll start with a story, or they'll start with a random question, and then it's just they go around the room and they just pick someone to go off of that topic and just start talking on it. And you can talk for as little as or as long as you want. I think up to
2 minutes. Yeah. So okay, it was the end, and they'll just call people out. Like, there's a big room of people, and they'll just say, "Okay, Colin, your turn. Matt, your turn." Whatever. And so I was like, fuck, dude, this is where I could get called out. So I had this strategy going in that every time it was time to call somebody's name, I'd grab a drink and I'd start taking a drink. Like, I was too busy to like handle your table topic right now. And so they get through it, and they
I was like, dude, you're fucking chugging.
Where are my Optigreens?
So it could have been shit, and I would have still drank it at that point. But anyway, so we get done. We're almost out of time, right? Like, I was like, all right, cool. And then she goes, we have time for one more. And I was like, fuck. Grab my drink. She fucking calls my name. And so she was like, family business or family band, like a music band. And that's such an easy one for me. Obviously, family business, right? And so it would have been so easy for me to answer that question, but I was like freaking out, and my voice was like cracking, and I was like,
Were you there for this, Matt?
Oh, yeah, he was sitting right next to me.
Yeah, and I wish we had a clip of
It was like 40 seconds. 40 seconds of hell.
I was holding it in. Because Dan and I, like, this is like when we first started. Like, we're not.
How
we're
long
a lot
ago was
closer
this?
now. It was what 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
This was recent.
Yeah. But Dan and I just became
2020.
super close in the past 7 months because we work together every day. So I didn't know him that well, and now that I know him, I can say it sounded like he was going to start crying. like he wasn't going to cry, but it's just how that like
it was
voice
tough.
is cracking, and it's like and you're talking out of like the last bit of breath you have left in your lungs.
And I was talking like this fast. So anyways, I want to get good at public speaking, and that's somewhere I do want to go, and I know that wall that's in front of me is all fear-based, and so like for me to get good at it, I have to put myself in those situations, but I'm so fucking scared of it. I don't do it.
Yeah. So
that's why I'm here doing a podcast in front of 3 people.
Well, what do they say lives on the other side of failure, and fear is like
success.
Yeah. So that's real.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to look at failure as a moment too, and something that you need to learn from, right? Like that was a moment for you. You can look back and you can laugh and be like, what? You remember whenever because you're going to deliver an amazing speech at some point in the near future. Like I don't know where it'll be or what'll happen.
Right. What's that quote? It's like you don't fail. You either win or learn or some shit.
You win or you learn.
Something like that.
Instead of you win or you lose.
Yeah.
That's a book. But yeah.
That's a book.
Matt's got all the books.
Yeah.
Did you bring me one?
Not yet.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I think that's really cool because I remember having to public speak a couple times, and I felt I hated it. And whenever I started working with Affleck, I knew I had to do group presentations at one point, and Rusty would go and he'd run them all for me. And then I remember the first time I ever had to run my own was one where he was like, "Dude, I can't make it today," and I was like, "Fuck, I have to run the presentation today." And then I did it, and it was fine because, well, for me, and like think about it for your stuff too. Like you're the expert in the room. Maybe at that recruiting one, you were like not necessarily the expert in the room.
Yeah.
Or there were other people that were aware of it, but that's the way that I took my mindset. Was like, no one knows these Aflac products better than me, and at least I know them better than these people. So if I mess up, it's going to be okay. But of course, you at the end of the day, you want to be able to self-assess and say, okay, I think I did a really good job there. I think I missed on capitalizing, talking about this talking point or going over this key feature. Or I could have built the need for what we offered a little bit better. And yeah, man, I think we all have those moments. It's just a matter of what it is. Whether you go, like for me, like just even this past year playing golf with, because I've gotten a lot better this year,
right.
Playing golf with that scratch group out at Whitmore, I was nervous as hell going into the first day, and like ever since I started playing with this group, and they all shoot in the 70s damn near every single day, I've shot in the 80s like maybe 3 or 4 times this year,
right?
And only because I'm leveling up and playing with people that are better than me. Like same thing like volleyball. Once we start playing some more doubles here, and we are upping the competition that we play with, we're only going to play better volleyball.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the ways I put myself out of my comfort zone this year. It's in volleyball, I'm going to be playing on an indoor team that's going to go to nationals, and we're going to play in the A division, which is like majority of people in the A division played at a decently high level in college. I never played college. I played like 1 or 2 years in high school. And so I'm going on that team knowing that I am by far the worst player on that team. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to get my ass kicked a couple times, but it's going to suck. And I'll feel embarrassed at times, but it's obviously a way that I can grow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'll come back from that tournament better.
Yep, and that's the thing.
And you already know that.
Yep. Well, and the thing is it's interesting, and I don't know if you all have any stories, but sometimes it takes a while for us to own our failures and like actually embrace them. So just to give you guys my take on like probably my biggest failure was when I was at when I got cut my teeth in recruiting. I worked for a staffing agency called Beacon Hill Staffing Group. I got recruited out of there, even though I loved the company. I wasn't happy with as much money that I was making, so I got recruited out of there to go to another company They offered me like 150% of my salary, their 3 biggest accounts to take on. They offered me like 6 months of extra pay as I kind of got my bearings. And I took it. I took the job because it seemed like a cool company. But it was also a different side of recruiting that I knew nothing about. It was a company that I really didn't know anything about, honestly. Like, I didn't look on Glassdoor, didn't do any of that. And it was just a different side. There's like permanent placement. There's temp. It was temp. It was IT. I knew nothing about anything. And so I had to go into this job. I had to be an account manager, and I had to tell people what to do that knew more than I did about like IT recruitment. So it was really weird. I think the first 2 weeks I had a manager that was on getting ready to go on maternity leave. She left. Then I had a manager that was 3 states away, whatever it was. Anywho, after 30 days, they ended up firing me. And I blame nobody but myself, even though I think the company's shitty. I do.
You're not biased.
I'm not biased at all. But it was my fault for not doing research on the company. I definitely I probably oversold myself a little bit just to kind of get that pay bump. But from there, and at that point in time, I was miserable at managing my finances, like awful, like in an ungodly amount of credit card debt. Already had a bunch of student loans. Was used to making a really good amount of money based off the first job that I had, where I was like tracking 6 figures and all this stuff. And then went a couple of years where I wasn't. So that's when the credit card debt started piling up. Had to go like mid to later mid 20s and move back in with my mom. And was wondering what the fuck I was going to do. Had to start bartending. And I was like, how the fuck is this happening? Like, how am I moving backwards, right? Like, what the fuck did I do wrong? Where did I go? Like, and I realized, I knew what I was doing wrong. But honestly, bartending, I spent all my days, like, researching, like, what I would do, how to interview, like, how to negotiate offers, like, all these different things. And I was just like, that's when it sparked, like, why not start my own recruiting agency? Honestly, that's where the seed was really planted, like, could I do this, right? So then I started reaching out to people. I ended up landing the job at Nestle Purina. I didn't tell anybody, I hated telling people that I got fired still. I was so embarrassed about it. But then, like, flipped this switch of like, okay, maybe I can own my own business. Okay, now I got to get my fucking life together. Now I got to be a fucking adult. Ended up paying off all the credit card debt. Ended up paying off majority of my student loans. Like, put more money away in the bank and savings than I ever had in that year. And that was a combination of like bartending and working at Purina. And then it led me into, like, I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm the most fulfilled I've ever been. I love my job. I love the fact that I get to do a podcast and I have the flexibility to go out of town if I want to go out of town. But when I did that, like I said, like, that failure was like the ultimate failure to me. And at that time, it was so embarrassing. I thought there could never be a lower low in my life. Like, I was that piece of shit that was like, got fired from his job, had to go back to bartending, had all this credit card debt, moved back in my fucking mom's basement. Like, that's the, like, that's the shit people in commercials make fun of. And I was like, now that's me. And so I took that shame and wore it. And then now it's honestly like a fucking badge of honor. Like, it took that stuff for me to go through to kind of get to where I am. And in no way, shape, or form am I saying that I made it and I've like arrived, but I'm in a way better position than I was back then. And I know for a fact, like, from there, I'm going to be projected even further and further along my career.
So, Matt,
that's a great story.
I love that.
Really.
I love that. How long did it take you from? So you got fired. Did you immediately move back in with your parents?
So it was kind of on the cusp already, where I was thinking about it because, like I said, I was already racking up credit card debt, and I luckily lived with a buddy of mine who owned his own place, and he was cool, and I was just like, hey, honestly, like, full transparency, I made up a bunch of bullshit. I was just like, I flipped it on to, hey, man, I'm gonna go move back home. I'm gonna help out my mom, and try to push it off that it wasn't me. But yeah, pretty much right after it happened, I ended up moving back with my mom.
And then how long did it take you from, and I'm asking these questions because I'm genuinely curious for anyone listening too, just like what you went through, because that's a really impactful story. How long were you, I guess, did it take you before you started looking into what you wanted to do with recruiting, or did you was there a period where you were just kind of like felt completely lost?
So there was Oh, for sure, a period that I felt completely lost. Yeah. Luckily, being in the recruiting world, you understand how to interview, you understand how to apply for jobs, you understand how to capitalize on your network. So it didn't take me too long to drum up, a few positions where I had offers for. One was for a sales gig, one was for Purina, and it was still a process, right? Like it wasn't this like overnight, like started the business, right? It was a lot of soul searching. It was a lot of, do I want to start a career at Nestle Purina, which is a great company. They got a good culture, good benefits. It was a lot of those conversations that I've talked about before. I reached out to Dan and other people. And then I was at Purina for about 3 years. So it was, and then it was just this gradual process, right? So at first I made a budget, right? I'm like, okay, I need to track my spending. I need to stop going out with my friends. I need to just say fucking no, right? Or if I'm going to go out, bring $20 from my bartending, whatever, and be like, that's all I'm fucking spending. And then it was, okay, started making money on the side and then just started like chipping away at the debt gradually. So probably 2.5 year process to get out of all the credit card debt and then pay off like a good amount of student loans.
That's insane, dude. That's an awesome success story with something like that, because you see a lot of people that get into situations like that and then they never recover.
Crippling.
Right. Well,
crippling. Especially going back to bartending, like I look at some people like this, like when they're bartending, I'm like, man, I sometimes I just feel like you could be doing something different. You ever run across those people? You're like,
I want to recruit them.
You're just not. Yeah, exactly. Like, this guy would be perfect.
And there would be times where it's like I'd be bartending, and a lot of the people were cool. It was 360, which is a cool bar.
Yeah.
But there's some people that are just so fucking like self-righteous, and like people would throw their fucking cards at me, like open it up for me, and it's like, you oh my god, dude.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah. It was but it was humbling, right? Because it was like, I can't wait to stop fucking bartending, because one day I'm gonna be fucking laughing at that dude for whatever he's doing.
Think about
he's going to be working for you. You can't laugh at him.
Those words you were saying.
I can't.
Those words you were saying, like, I can't wait to, like, I think there's something to that, because a lot of people would be like, I fucking hate this. I just need to find a new place to go do this, and all of a sudden they're in this cycle instead of like thinking this has a means to an end. This is not how I want my life to go.
And they believe that it's someone else's fault and not their own. And that there's nothing that they can do about it. They blame the system. They blame their former boss.
Poison. That is fucking poison.
They never realize that everything that they want to, like, because Matt, you took it all on yourself to make all those changes and do all those different things. Like, you probably had mentors throughout the way, but it sounds like, I mean, you're self-made in that respect. So I think a lot of people, they have failure, they get fired from jobs, they lose their job, or something just shitty happens, and they immediately want to play the blame game instead of actually taking some ownership and saying that, hey, here's some areas where I could see myself improving, and this is how I can make sure I get to the next level.
Yeah, and
no one's doing that.
I think that is the big deciding factor between a winner and a loser in general. Like, as soon as you say, oh, it's somebody else's fault, and you accept that, that's at that point you start going down that path for the rest of your life. And you keep going. And
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and
you
I
hear about people that just complain all the time, or they gossip.
But they got to that point where something didn't work out how it was supposed to work out, and I think that's when you kind of hit that crossroads in your life, because that happened to me. And I told this story. We didn't release this podcast yet, or not. I don't. It was the old version.
Oh, yeah. We had a similar conversation.
This was a tough one for me to tell the story. The more I tell it, the easier it is to tell. But similar with Matt, the difference is I graduated college. I worked my ass off to get out of college. My now wife was my girlfriend. We were about to get married. So we got married, had the baby, and I couldn't find a job. I graduated in 2011. Just a horrible time to find a job. Like, it just wasn't the greatest economy. And so I like slipped into depression. I slept till 2 p.m. every day. And it got to the point where, like, we were basically broke. I was working at like Sports Authority or some shit, making minimum wage, and I had a wife and a daughter, and I wasn't able to provide for them, and I couldn't find a job even though I went through school. Everybody told me if I went to school I'd get this or whatever, right? And so that was my victim mindset at the time, is like, why is this happening to me? Luckily I got, and I say this, luckily I got so broke that I basically, like, we couldn't afford bills, and I never this is the only time, I guess I can't say never because I did, but this is the only time I've asked my parents for money. Is we were so broke we couldn't afford rent or anything like that, and I'm like the man, like you got to take care of your family, things like that. And so I'll never forget, I went to my mom and like I broke down. I like started crying, and I was like, I'm a failure basically. Like I can't believe, I need $600, and it's still hard for me to tell the story. But so it's $600, and she gave it to me, and that was the day where I was like, this will never fucking happen again. And that's when I started taking ownership of my life versus saying, oh, why is the economy's bad, that's why I don't have a job or whatever. Because if I kept going down that mindset, I'd probably be divorced. You know what I mean? Because I was a piece of shit.
Still working,
basically.
Probably at
well,
Dick's
and
now,
you knew me during that time. I was working at the deli at Moldeli's, who I mentioned last week as my mentor. He owned this place. He gave me a job, and that's where I met Colin, actually.
Was that the next thing that you did after you borrowed that money from your parents, was go work there? So, or what was
No,
your
I was
next...
working there. Like, that was kind of like, that was like around the same time. So I don't know if I was working at Sports Authority or if I was working there. I think I was working at Sports Authority, and then I started working there because within a couple of weeks, I posted, hey, I'll give golf lessons on Craigslist to make some extra money. If you're bad, I can help you. If you're really good, I can't, type thing. Yeah. Like I was real. It was like $35 for a lesson, and you buy the balls, and people were signing up left and right. And so I started getting a decent client base, and that's where I met Ben, who owned a deli that Colin worked at, and that's where we kind of met. But ever since then, it was kind of like, I'll do whatever it takes. And so things started to unfold once I took ownership of my life, and I ended up finding a recruiting job, and then excelling at that, just doing the best I can every day. Kind of outgrew that within 6 months. Wanted to find another job, so I found another job. I ended up getting a $20,000 pay bump from the time I asked my mom for money to over the next 4 years. I ended up going up $20K a year, and that's always been my goal, go up $20K a year. Now,
it lit a fire.
Well, that's the thing, is like, I never want to go back in that situation again. And so like that like literally cracked me, and it's just driven me ever since. But I could have at that time decided I'm a victim, and where would I be today? I don't know.
You said something that like right off the bat I was like, this dude's a fucking dumbass. Like
me?
You guys, I guess, were
when you met me.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like when I met you. I had like met you, and
or we were working together,
and you were like coming up, like you were working upstairs with Vesna and everybody, and you had mentioned something like, yeah, man, I got all these fucking ideas, and I'm like, yeah, me too.
I've always wanted my own business,
and that's what drew me to you, is because I was like, dude, me too, and I can't like shut my mind off ever, and you came up with this idea.
Is that why you thought I was dumb, because we were similar?
No, maybe, yeah, maybe, yeah, could be, yeah.
No, go ahead.
But you had said you came up with an idea of cleaning car seats.
Yeah,
and you started pitching me. I was like, I don't have fucking kids,
You don't care.
And I was like,
where's my bong?
Kind of see, yeah. I was like, it kind of seems like a dumbass idea to me, and like I left that conversation, but it still stuck with me today. And I know I've mentioned it to you a couple times because, like, having that kind of mindset with nothing, like you had no credibility. You had not started a business yet,
right.
Like you had, and so like. At that point in my life, I was surrounded by people who were just fucking dreamers.
Well, I definitely was a dreamer.
Ideas all the time. You know what I mean? And then you had said something like, "I'm gonna be the next fucking Zuckerberg," and I was like, "This dude is fucking
still the goal.
Crazy." But
still the goal.
But it triggered something in me, and I was just like, "That's what you have to be. You have to be kind of crazy like that." And I know I've said that on this podcast before. You have to be a little bit crazy, and you have to believe in yourself. When the 1 or 5 people that you tell don't. You have to be able to believe.
Yeah, and
that's the big thing.
And the funny thing is, we've all got these failure stories, right? And it's Bobby, it's the inspiration or desperation. You've been brave enough to tell us your story a couple of times, and now it's just like you're telling that and getting so good at perfecting that story that I think that's going to help a lot of people down the road. Yeah. But it's inspiration or desperation. Unfortunately, for most of us, we wait until we're incredibly desperate, and then. When that happens, it takes a little bit of time to see the light at the end of the tunnel and that you can change, but it's, you got to obviously face it. You've got to have some serious seriously difficult conversations with people around you most of the time, asking for money. In my case, I had to ask my sister-in-law to watch over my finances, meaning like gave her logins to my bank account at one point.
You had to be completely vulnerable.
Because I know my mom and we butt heads too much. My brother thinks I can do no wrong. So he'd be like, oh, fuck it. He's like, you want to spend $500 on a bar tab tonight? Go ahead, man.
You're a good guy.
As long as you have a good time, right? But my sister-in-law was a person that I know would like hold me accountable. So I'm like, here's my shit. I'm like, call me on my shit whenever I'm fucking spending money. And she did. And she would, because I slipped up a couple times. And she was like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Why are you at a bar? Like, you're living in your mom's basement. Like, not that rude, but she just, she called me out in a way that was just like, I'd be like, fuck, like, this is exactly what I need.
You know who you want to be, and you're not really acting like it.
Yeah.
We need so many more people like that in our life, because there's it's actually a podcast that I listened to a while ago, and Andy Frisella, it's Crabs in the Bucket. I don't know if you guys listen.
$5.
That's fine. I'll pay it. Pay the fees. I'll pay it in monetary, and I'll share his podcast. But it's the theory of crabs in a bucket. What happens when a crab tries to crawl out of the bucket? The other crabs don't support him. They try and grab him and pull him back down. So you think about any failures that you have, instead of someone there's a lot of people right now that will just say like, oh, it's okay, like, don't worry about it, like, it's completely fine, and no one is actually trying to encourage people to work harder to do different things. And he brought this up, so before you go, Dan.
Okay. Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Before you go, this
Matt knows
so in the podcast, Andy was talking about this girl who put up this post that said 75 hard, and it was like her third or fourth time trying to do it. She's like, it's just not for me. And Andy said, well, yeah, like, if the 75 hard challenge is not for everyone. It is really fucking difficult to do all those different things every single day for 75 days and not messing up a single thing. And he said that there were so many comments on that post about people who would say things like, oh yeah, it is just too difficult, there's no reason for you to do something like that, like, welcome back to the real world and all this bullshit, instead of just actually trying to push people to achieve their real potential and encouraging her to do something more. And maybe she just needed, if she would have had an extra push to say, no, like, listen, you made it through 11 days. Because he said on there, if you can do this for 10 fucking days, you can do this for 75 days. If you can do this for 3 days, you can do this for 75 days. There is no reason that you can't do something like this, but our society is full of crabs that are, and whenever we try and go do something that's amazing and part of the 1%, like, we're trying to be the 1% that is being a little bit more successful, and we're trying to elevate people around us. There are so many people that want to bring us back down, and we have to avoid people like that in our lives and surround ourselves with like-minded people who are going to help elevate us and get us to where the fuck we want to get to.
And right. Trying isn't good enough. It's not. So you can't reward yourself for trying.
No, that's a failure. Right?
Yeah, it's a failure. You have to keep. You have to keep going.
Either you do
you
or
have
you
to
don't.
keep fucking going. Yeah, and that's.
So,
that's
and I actually do kind of pride myself on being that person sometimes, but my delivery always isn't the best or at the best time, or so I'll always tell people if they fucked up, I'll tell them, you know what I mean? And I have a friend who lost a couple of clients at one time, and
Matt Kreska?
No. And so he was telling me the story, and I was like, well, you could have been working a little bit harder. And the delivery was wrong, and I felt really bad after it. But it was because I did actually care, and I wanted that person to get better. So every time I try to fucking help, though, people look at me like I'm a huge dickhead, which I am. But
well, that's fair. But you're trying to let them know, hey, listen, like, you losing those clients was not them being a jerk to you or anything like that. You could have been doing more proactive things to try and keep them as a client.
Right. Well, or looking for new clients during the times when things are good. Right.
Well, so you're really retraining the way they think about things. Like, so I have a friend who like, we would go to the gym and he would never see any results. He's like, fuck it, and
was it me?
Or like he would skip out on a set, or he'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna shorten this one up, and like I would just tell him, like, you're making fucking excuses, and it got to the point to where when he would complain, he would be like, I know you're gonna say, like, so in his mind he's already thinking, like, he already knows he's making the excuse, like, it's all about, are you going to do it? Are you just going to complain forever because nobody's coming to save you? Like, I think that's the culture we live in. People are looking, if I try, somebody will reach out and help me out,
right.
But it's not.
It's raining outside. I can't do that today.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I like this challenge though too, because it puts you through so many crossroads where you're forced to build those disciplines. Like you in life, you run through these crossroads that are few and far between. Like you ran across one when you went back and moved in with your mom and you started bartending. You had to develop these little habits that you probably wouldn't have thought of a year before, where your finances, is everything in check? My finances, am I living the life that I want to be living? Am I becoming the person that I want to become? And you faced it and you became vulnerable. You had her help you, and you not to say you're at the point that you want to be, but you're well on your fucking way.
Yeah, failure is a good thing as long as we're learning from it, right?
Hell yeah.
Of course.
Cool. I think that's it, unless you guys have anything else, any last comments you want to go into?
I have no insightful quotes today.
No, I mean, I was just going to bring up A-Rod. So he was on a podcast with Ed Milet not too long ago, and he said something that I didn't even realize, because everybody looks at A-Rod as a great baseball player and all these things. And he's like,
new?
It's somewhat newer. It was during COVID. And, he said, hey, people say I got all these hits, and they say I had a great batting average, whatever. But what people don't tell you is that I'm number 5 of all time in strikeouts.
Yeah.
And so, I look at that as like, well, he's failed.
He's taking swings.
More than everybody but 4 other guys ever to walk on a baseball field, and it's fucking A-Rod.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, he's grown from that, and I just thought that was a good story.
The iceberg theory, like there's all these things. There's a map below the surface, and then there's just a small amount of ice above.
Right. People only see the success. So.
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, thanks for joining.
Love
Failure.
Failure.
Then I guess
You failed at
I
that.
just failed at this outro.
Okay.
All right.
All right. With that, we're out of here. Thanks, guys.
Light it.